What's up, good people? So check this out. I received a few emails, a few text messages, phone calls about Charlie Kirk, what my thoughts were. First of all, I'm going to give condolences to his family. God rest his soul. Regardless of where you fit in the political sector or what side of the fence you're on, nobody deserves to die in that manner. He was assassinated. Some people tried to minimize that assassination by saying he was just shot. But he was targeted for political purposes. That was planned. And by definition, and how he was in society at that point and what the potential purposes were, it was in fact an assassination. Now, this is what my concern is, what I have questions about. Now, people that are familiar with Iran, Gaza, and Israel and that whole situation there, Benjamin, who they call Bibi, Prime Minister of Israel, the 9th Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, that's his last name, Netanyahu, he, very powerful person, very, very powerful. Now, Charlie Kirk, back in June, before Donald Trump sent military support, Charlie Kirk went to the Oval Office. He requested specifically. This is according to Tucker Carlson. Now, he had an interview with Megyn Kelly. I've went through Charlie Kirk's videos. I've gone through them all. I've noticed some of Megyn Kelly's videos, also Tucker Carlson's. Might have missed a few, but any one I could find, I'll look through. I even went through some of the black sectors as well. TikTok, Instagram, I went through as many as I could. And that's probably why my video was a little delayed here. But I will say back in June, according to Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk pleaded with Donald Trump not to get involved with Israel and Gaza. Asked him not to. Tucker Carlson, according to him, said that Charlie Kirk showed him intense and somewhat threatening messages he had received. I can't remember who they were from, if it was from people that supported Israel or were against Israel. But either way, there were threats made because of his action in talking to Donald Trump, according to Tucker Carlson. Which leads me to believe that although they arrested this 22-year-old in Utah, it brings a lot of questions. A lot of questions. The shot itself seems to be questionable because anyone who knows ballistics and shot a 30-06 or anything, any round of that caliber, 155 grain or higher, feet per second is about 2,700 to about 3,200 feet per second. And the exit wound is definitely a lot bigger normally. And the exit wound for a 30-06 in the chest or neck, I think would have created more damage. Seems like it would have. And the red dot you see on Charlie Kirk's neck, to me that appears to be a exit wound from a smaller caliber round, 5.56, 2.23 pistol, maybe. That's what it looks like. Again, I'm not there. I'm just going by the pictures and what's available. Not insinuating that the FBI or anyone else in this investigation or involved in this investigation is not telling the truth, because we really don't know. I'm just telling you based on my experience with ballistics and the damages. Now, a few weeks before the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Ben Netanyahu, I saw a clip where he stated that he would like to meet with Charlie Kirk, but unfortunately, that never got a chance to happen. Don't know why he was going to meet him, but of course he was assassinated before that time, before that meeting took place. It just raises a lot of questions, a lot of questions. The reason why it raises questions for me is because Israel is very powerful. Now, acquisition of land and certain precious minerals or whatever it is that they may be in search of, those things can fuel a lot of action from certain countries. Now, if you look at it, you have Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, and you have Iran, of course. Now, Israel in that area is one of very few that has nuclear capabilities. Israel does. Now, does Iran have it? I have no idea. But I believe if we gotten too involved with Iran, that Russia would not allow it. The way that Syria was supported, or the way we intervened in Syria, I don't think that would happen in Iran. I don't believe that would happen the same way. Either way, the bottom line, Charlie Kirk may or may not have gotten himself involved in geopolitics. I mean crossing countries, that kind of thing. Now, as long as he's talking to, people in college, that's one side of it, which I get it. you want to influence that part of the world, and you want to build for a future. I believe that's what he was in the process of doing. I also believe that because he was involved in more than 3,000 colleges across the country, he had a big influence. People around his age, a few years older and definitely younger, he had a big influence on them. Anyone who understands the institutions of higher learning in America, they are very liberal. If you see someone that's formally educated, the majority of the time they're very liberal. And I'll give my thoughts on that later on down the line. But um, they are. But Charlie Kirk was slowly changing that ideology at that level or with those students. Some of the things he said were inflammatory to some, and people who do not understand sometimes how debates are done, he can say things in a way or in a fashion that will incite or elicit conversation, right? I'll give you an example. Now, as a detective, some people, or a good investigator, they would do what's called elicitation. So I can get you to answer me or give me information without asking you questions. Give you an example. So let's say that I run into a couple and I want to find out how many children he has, right? But I can't really ask him that without him being suspicious. I may walk up and go, hey, you know what? Hey, man, they tell me you got 8 kids. He's like, no, man, I only got 2 kids. See, he just answered that question without me asking. So I overshoot my mark to elicit a conversation, to elicit you to answer. You will answer sometimes out of habit, not realizing that I just got you to give me information without asking you. Same thing. Charlie Kirk may say, you know what? More than 50% of Black Americans commit the most violent crimes. Those numbers are not accurate, depending on what you're looking at and what statistics you're looking at and how it's broken down. He may say that, but that elicits a conversation. If you haven't done your homework, then you know that some of the information he gave might have been true according to his statistics, but there's a way to refute that and combat that. And he did that intentionally, in my opinion, to elicit that conversation, to challenge, to create a debate. Now, he has to stir you up a little bit. He has to evoke some kind of emotion in the person that he wants to debate. Now, he's debating people that are under 25. You know, scientifically, the brain's not fully developed till you're 25. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. And those people that are 50, the brain's still not fully developed. So that's neither here nor there. But I'll tell you what, I think that Charlie Kirk at some point was going to be a very powerful political figure. He was on his way. I think that his voice is being heard across the country. I think he was gaining momentum in a way that he had more power than he realized. I believe that. Now, some people believe that he used religion as a platform. A lot of people do. Now, some of the things he said to elicit those conversations might have rubbed some people the wrong way. Could have, might have. But if you understand debates, he gave everyone an opportunity to meet him. He had a schedule. If you followed his page, or if you were around him, you knew he would tell you where he was going to be. And he would debate. Now, if someone wanted to challenge him, they could feed that information to a college student at the college that he was about to attend, because he had an itinerary that was pretty open. And if they wanted to feed that information to that student could actually challenge him. And his title was "Prove Me Wrong." But he has to stir you up to get the conversation going. That's why his following was so strong. It was so powerful. Now, I saw a video that was very important to me, because he said a lot of the same things I said. The importance of a father in the household. And he made a statement once about, and I'll give you two. The first one was about a DEI hire on a black pilot. Now, that one's been clipped and flipped all kind of different ways. Now, what his true intentions are, we really don't know. Only he knows that. But the way he presented it, from what I believe, was that, is this person being a DEI hire, him being a black pilot, is that the reason why he was a pilot? Now, we all know that they might have hired you because you're black, but he's already qualified. They have certain rules and things they have to follow to get there. Now, that opportunity for that black pilot may not have been there without DEI, maybe or maybe not. But him saying, is he qualified? It's inflammatory. But that gives him a platform to talk more and later for people to debate him. And he was in platforms where you could do that. So, and he had the guts to say things that some white Americans would have never said 10, 15 years ago. But if you didn't notice at his ceremony, reportedly there were over 200,000 people. What Charlie Kirk represented was white America. He did. He had the support of white America, of the powerful people in white America. My question, because of that, was, did he reach too far? Did he? I don't know. When the Prime Minister of Israel says he wants to meet with you, you've reached way out there. In the case you haven't noticed, in America, the Jewish culture is part of every infrastructure of the United States. Every infrastructure of the United States. The Jewish culture is. Everything. They're part of everything. Now, those that know me know I studied Hebrew. Not that that's a big deal, but I want to show you how closely related these things are. Now, at the age of 12, there was called a bar mitzvah or bar mitzvat. Bar mitzvah is for the male. Bar mitzvat is for the female, age of 12. If you look around, a lot of things are measured in 12, put it that way. And if they do not complete that, they have to study the book of Leviticus. And that's the way of life, according to the Bible. If you believe in the Torah, Old Testament, that kind of thing, that's kind of depending. I don't want to get too far into that, but depending on that, if you do not complete that bar mitzvah or bar mitzvat, you're considered disbarred. You understand that? Remember the word disbarred, because that is what happens to an attorney when he is no longer allowed to practice law. Disbarred. And if you look around America, if you want to get the best attorneys with the best relationship with the best, most powerful judges, they somewhere down the line have a connection to the Jewish culture. They just do. Good or bad, indifferent, whatever. But the Jewish culture is part of every infrastructure of the United States. And they own a lot of politicians, supposedly. They own a lot of politicians. Maybe Charlie Kirk knew that. Maybe did not know that. Now, me saying that don't mean a lot. I'm just an old guy in Texas. Been around a little while, but that's just me. But somebody like Charlie Kirk, with that kind of influence, that kind of power, maybe he didn't realize the influence that he had. Maybe he didn't realize that. And his movement, although they think they might have silenced him, they actually made him louder. His message is louder and stronger today than it was when he was alive. Yeah. And he's labeled as a martyr now. He's a martyr. So martyrs make movement, huge movements. They do. Especially if that message is supported by those that are in power. Those that mock Charlie Kirk to death are foolish. Because you too, one day, will pass and we don't know how. You too have family members that you love. You too have children. You too have parents. We all have that. We don't want that for anybody. So the people that mock his death are foolish. Because you can have as much money as you want, but you can't make your house really a home. Can't guarantee your health. Charlie Kirk's death appeared to be quick and swift. The people who mock that death may be slow. Not wishing it, but my point is you'll never know how you're going to die. You never know how death may enter into your life. It may be you, it may be someone you love. So anyone who mocks the death of any man for any reason is a fool. Is a fool. Charlie Kirk, I can't say I agree with everything he said, but that's one part of his conversation that I understood when it came to DEI. I'm not saying that what he said was right, but I felt like I understood what the point he was trying to make. And I also believe that he was trying to elicit further conversation down the line. He was planning ahead to create conversations for someone to attack him and address that so he can explain it in detail later, maybe at a different venue. Because he knows that people have watched him. He had millions of followers. Millions. But I'll tell you something else he said that I agreed with. Charlie Kirk said that being strong and non-fragile are two different things. Being strong and non-fragile are two different things. Being non-fragile is when you go through something. It's very terrible and you come out better. That's non-fragile. No example he gave of being non-fragile? Michael Jordan. He also gave that example too about that with Donald Trump. The difference between being strong and non-fragile was that being strong just means you can go through it and you have resilience. Being non-fragile means you can go through it and come out better. Yeah. Yeah. Like it, don't like it, indifferent, whatever. But I can tell you this. Charlie Kirk's message now is larger now than it was when he was alive. And those that hate are just making him even stronger. Remember that. Now, again, rest in peace his soul and anyone else who's involved. We all have to meet that day. We all have to be there one day. I do believe that the people that are upset have never watched fully what Charlie Kirk was doing. If you understand debate, as I said before, you understand that they create situations to elicit that conversation, to get you to talk. He may overshoot his mark with numbers that are a little bit higher than what statistics show. And understand, he's not reading when he says it. He's going off the top of his head. More than 50% of black people or crimes are committed in America. Most violent crimes are committed by black people. That's what he says. But there may be a caveat to that. And he may not explain it right then. More than 50% of violent crimes are committed by black people, on black people. That may be the caveat. I'll come back later and give those details. I may post it on this reel to show you the numbers. Now, we always talk about black on black crime. We very rarely talk about white on white crime. It happens. See how the news and how propaganda can be spread to put people in a certain mind frame to think a certain way. I believe that in order to get the proper information, you should study for yourself, not just on TikTok, not just on Instagram, any type of social media, because those numbers can be skewed. Algorithms can be tempered to your liking, and it can actually thwart your thoughts. I think reliable sources are very important. I believe that Charlie Kirk used numbers and overshot his numbers sometimes to create conversation. And I'll give you another example of how things have changed. And the biggest threat to America in the 80s was crack, and the government addressed it the way they saw fit, or however they did it. They did it. The 90s were gangs. They addressed it. Federal government support, law enforcement, however they wanted to address it. Early 2000s, it was terrorism, Taliban, extreme jihadists. Those were the biggest threat to America. And you got school shootings along the line, filtered in there all across the line over the last 22 decades, last 20 years or so. More so than before. But today, the biggest threat is a white male under the age of 30, underemployed, highly educated. Now, the young man who attempted to shoot or attempted to kill Donald Trump, very intelligent, highly educated, underemployed, or not employed, one or the other. And what I mean by underemployed is his education level is high, but his income is low. The young man who shot the CEO over health insurance, I can't remember the exact title, was the CEO, had a lot to do with health in the medical field. Can't remember his name. Anyway, he was a Stanford graduate with advanced degrees, very intelligent, under 30, underemployed, no tattoos, clean face. Wouldn't know. The man is arrested for allegedly shooting Charlie Kirk, white male, under the age of 30, underemployed, right? Now, this is something that people don't talk about. He was raised in a conservative family, but he left and he got a scholarship because he was intelligent. He was very intelligent, or at least tested well, put it that way. He went to college. In college is where everything changed. That's what a lot of the liberal views are, supposedly. Everybody has their own opinion. I believe that the colleges, the institutions of higher learning, actually promote liberal views, which is a destructive way for America. Very destructive, in my opinion. This young man, when he left to go to college, he was dating a male who identified as a female or transgender, however they do that. Nothing against his sexuality. That's what he does, his business. That's definitely not a conservative view. Not at all. Not at all. Now, whether you conservative, progressive, that part's irrelevant. But I think that going too far right is dangerous, and going too far left is dangerous. Wherever you fit in the political world, if you go too far to any other direction, it's always a problem. Black lives matter. Black lives only mattered until they got that money, and they used that money to buy property in white neighborhoods. And the black people that could have been helped weren't even helped. So the black people that are upset about Charlie Kirk, the biggest threat to us was not Charlie Kirk. It's us. So if you learn anything about or hear anything about Charlie Kirk's statistics, the numbers are irrelevant. The fact of the matter is the biggest threat to people like me, other people that look like me, right? Just like the biggest threat to someone like Charlie Kirk is someone who is under the age of 30, white male, biggest threat to him. That's true. Sometimes it's about proxemics. You have altercations with people who you're around. Husbands attack wives, wives attack husbands. Friends don't become friends at some point for whatever reason. Relationships get crossed, things start happening. Violence within a certain race is not uncommon. What's talked about the most is black on black crime. See, this brings me to a point where I want to finish on this. There's a huge difference between perception and perspective. Now, perception, to me, in the way I was taught, is how you feel about things and how you see things. Now, if you're a black person who only hangs around other black people, your perception of police, government, and everything around you may be that of only black people. You'll never see the perspective. You'll never see it. The same thing. If you're too far on the right and you only hang around other white males, your perception about black people may not be accurate. May not be. You only see what you want to see, right? And vice versa. Black lives matter, white lives matter. You go too far in any direction, extreme in any direction, there's going to be a problem. It just is. It just is. But the perspective is something that we all need, I believe, should work on. So if my perception is that every time I see a white police, he's picking on me because I'm black. That's my perception. But the perspective may be that my registration's out. I was going a little too fast. He's just doing his job. I respect him, he respects me. Or if it's a female police officer, I respect her, she respects me. And we deal with it accordingly. If I have a dispute, I dispute that in court. That's the actual perspective. My perception, if it leads me, I might make a lot of mistakes. If my perception about Charlie Kirk is negative, then everything he says that gives me confirmation bias, that's the only thing I will hear. He says anything about, hey, crimes are committed by black people, more crimes committed by black people, that's all I hear. I won't hear the part where he says, you know what? A lot of this comes from fathers not being in the house. That's true. It is true. It's true. And I agree with that part of it. And then you have other people that might say, you know what? Why is a white man talking on the talking points of how black people should live and what they should do? Well, Malcolm X did it. Martin Luther King did it. They all were assassinated. I'm not saying they're all the same, but how can we say that a white man can't speak on black people when we all talk about how black people talk about how white people should treat black people and what they should or shouldn't do? Or how the LGBTQ can tell me what to call you. Now, Constitution may fill in and tell you what you shouldn't call people. There are limitations on freedom of speech. First Amendment, there are some limitations. But I find it problematic when you tell me what I should call you. You can tell me what not to call you, but you can't force me to tell you what I should call you. If you're biologically a male and you tell me I should call you a she, it ain't happening. It's just not happening. Give a damn how you feel about it, just ain't happening. It's not. Now, you can censor what I say, but you can't tell me what to say. I just won't say anything to you. Live how you want to live. That's your life. But again, perception, perspective, very important. Perception is how you see things. Perception is how you see things. But sometimes to get a perspective, you have to look at how other people may see things and look at the facts rather than your feelings. Perception, perspective. Perception, perspective. Two different things. I think it brings clarity. Extreme left is too much. Extreme right is too much. Either one is problematic. And to liberals, a problem. And to conservative could be a problem. Extreme on either end is a problem. I can call out liberals on some stuff. I can call out some conservatives on some stuff. But I'm a firm believer in doing what's right, the best, the way you see fit, and having a perspective rather than a perception. It brings a little more clarity. That's just my opinion. It just does. Charlie Kirk, rest in peace. I hear to badmouth him or his family. His wife in her speech during the ceremony said she forgives the man who shot her son. God bless her. That's between her and the good Lord. Just like whoever shot Charlie Kirk, whether it's a young man they have arrested or someone else, that's something they got to answer to God for. That's not for me to judge on that side. That's up to the good Lord. Yeah, I hate the fact that people take it personally that Charlie Kirk spoke on some things, and their only perception is that everything he said was racist. I hope they understand that some of the things he said were to elicit conversation, to create a debate, he opened a platform in person, in public venues, outside, for people to prove him wrong. That's it. Prove him wrong. All right. Y'all tell me what you think. Whether you agree, disagree. If you think Charlie Kirk stepped too far out in geopolitics, crossing country lines, or you think he's racist or non-racist, do you agree with him? Don't agree with him? Let me know what you think. Comments, good or bad, and I'll come back with another video and I'll respond to you. Those are my views about Charlie Kirk, and that's where I'm at. So prove me wrong. Peace.